Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm proud to have in the studio with us today engineer Mike Herzog. How's it going, Mike?
Doing great, David. Grass is green, the sun is shining. Hopefully the severe weather's passed us by.
Yeah, I don't know. It needs to stop raining so I can mow my grass.
I did it last
So
night. I snuck it in there.
really, yeah, I mean, I hate mowing when it's wet, but man, we're going through like a monsoon season or something for us.
Mhm.
We really don't get a lot of rain in Nebraska, but we sure are in about a 10-day stretch here. So, and as long as we don't get any more tornadoes, those were bad.
It was tough. It was
So
tough.
anyways, so I'm going to start out today talking a little bit about Mullen Automotive. Now, Mullen is a U.S. EV maker that, while they mainly are focused in commercial trucks, they also have, trying to make a sports car, they're trying to make an SUV, a couple other things. I think they should probably stick to commercial. So far, all they've been able to deliver are commercial vehicles. But what was interesting is they bought up a bunch of assets. They bought up, one of the companies that didn't really work out in hydrogen. I can't think of. They had a battery facility in California. They bought up their battery facility. They bought up a GM Hummer plant in Michigan. They bought a company called Electric Vehicle Last Mile Solutions, and they also bought a couple of other outfits. One was they bought this large manufacturing facility in Tunica, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis. And this is where the Tunica facility is where they've been successfully delivering vehicles. They make what's called a Class 3 vehicle, which is kind of like the cab of a tow truck. It could be a moving truck, but basically they make the chassis and then you put whatever you want on the back of it,
Yep.
kind of thing. Well, they've got this company called Pritchard EV as one of the largest U.S. commercial dealers, and which is Pritchard EV, to their dealer network. And they put out a press release about it this morning and announces today the expansion of its dealer network, the signing of Pritchard as a new franchise partner for the commercial EV lineup, covering regional and national fleet opportunities. And I thought this was interesting because I see there's a lot of opportunities in the fleet business. And I really wanted to highlight one because I'd had an additional press release from them from 2 days ago that I hadn't discussed on the show. It was about California. So this Class 3 truck has an MSRP of $68,500. Okay, commercial space. Hell, we look at pickup trucks. Even a 1500 series pickup truck doesn't sell that cheap.
250, something like that. Yeah. Oh no, you're
yes. So it's already a pretty decent price. In California, there is a $45,000 cash voucher for something called HVIP, which sounds like an STD, but it stands for something. Hybrid and Zero Emission Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Program. Could have been a whole lot more letters than HVIP, but anyways, that's what they decided to call it. But anyways, you get the $45,000, then the federal tax credit of $7,500. Makes this vehicle less than $17,000.
$55,000 from the state of California.
Yes, I think that's nuts. Okay, wow. I think it's nuts that California is subsidizing that much into these, and maybe that $45,000 was really intended to be on, say, like a $200,000 truck.
Yeah.
So we know that if you were buying a gas semi, you could probably buy one for, let's say, $120,000 to $140,000. But if you're buying a hydrogen semi or an all-electric semi, it's triple that. Yeah. So the $45,000 would certainly
getting you closer to parity. Not there.
Yeah. Closer. Yeah. Now, when we've looked at some other EV things, like we had Greenland Tech on here that makes the front end loaders, and their front end loader sells for $250,000, which is the same price as a diesel one goes for. But in a couple of East Coast states, it's eligible for up to a 40% state rebate.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's $100,000. Which one are you going to choose if you could use it? The problem is,
if it meets your needs, why?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
The electric front end loader really only works when you own the yard. Okay, it doesn't work if you're taking it to a remote construction site.
If you have this is where we work. This is what we do. I know where it's going to park every single night. I know what its tasks are during the day. It works.
Yeah. So, on our different social medias, people are constantly telling us what EVs can and can't do. It's like, well, we're well aware in the commercial space, there's a lot of limitations to EVs.
Yeah.
They're perfect for doing local delivery and a whole bunch of other things, but there's a whole lot of tasks like towing a trailer and going and doing construction on remote job sites. They're not designed to do yet.
Nope.
And they may, and who knows what it'll take to actually ever do those jobs, And so I always see all this stuff about we're going to go, everything's going to be zero emission, all that. It's like, well, it'd be great to get close to it. I don't see how you ever get 100%, or true zero.
The energy density of diesel and in gasoline, it's so high, and it makes it so portable and movable. And it's not just the duration of it, it's the instantaneous power you can get from those, where it's I need an oomph, like that's the delivery you get from gas and diesel. Whereas electric technology forever, like the premium option lithium, that was its drawback, was quick charging and quick discharge. You just couldn't get that oomph out of it, which they're starting to figure out and getting better at. But yeah, I agree with you. There are just some of those applications. I mean, unless you're going to build a power plant, next to a remote job site, I don't know what you would do.
I've heard comments about people working with the electric heavy equipment, because when it's just sitting there, it's off.
Yeah,
it's off. But as soon as you press the the pedal, it goes.
Yeah,
and it's instant. There's no delay. You don't have to turn the vehicle on, anything. Just get in it and you just start rolling.
Like
and
a golf cart, right?
Right. It's essentially it's the same. It's the very same. But they're saying that they get 9 hours of battery in a day out of it, running them constantly, like in a dump, like in a garbage dump, and running them. And there's garbage dumps running as many as something like 36 front end loaders at a time.
Yeah.
And they're that large for some of the bigger cities in the country. But anyways, I just thought this was fascinating. So that's huge. I mean, good for Mullen. I mean, if you're in the commercial space, even if you really didn't need these vehicles, it would make sense to buy a couple just to have them. Yeah. And even if, you didn't need to expand your fleet, it would make sense to replace gas vehicles, diesel vehicles with these. And, that's a big amount
out there. But the cost of idling for a diesel vehicle, it drives accountants nuts. The fuel cost that gets associated with
idling.
It just sits there and runs, and it goes, and we leave, and we just leave it running because it's diesel. Yep, we hop out, we go do our thing, we do whatever, and the car stays on. It's nuts. Yeah.
I'm not going to claim to know a lot about diesel and truck driving, but I know when truck drivers go to truck stops, that truck stays running, while they're off duty. And so I've always just kind of assumed it made it more efficient to get it started again. Like there was a chance that it might not restart or something. I don't know exactly what that is.
The truck itself's a little powerhouse. So, it's providing heating and cooling and whatever other, power you need for your load or what's in your cab, or anything like that. So you gotta keep the generator running.
Right. Anyways, let's see. Next, I wanted to go to, this is coming from CNBC, and this is about the Biden administration to require advanced safety technology on all new cars and trucks. Now, I don't want anybody making fun of any clumsy people at the top levels of our government. I don't want to see that in any of the comments. Don't tell me about your favorite, video of members of the executive branch of our government falling down, getting on an airplane, or falling over on a bicycle, or, anything like that, because that's just making fun of old people. And we just can't have that on my channel. Okay. So anyways, if the listeners just keep that in mind. Okay. So anyways, Um, so the Biden administration plans to require that all new cars and trucks come with pedestrian collision avoidance systems that include automatic emergency braking tech by the end of the decade. Now, let's see. Transport Secretary Pete,
Buttigieg.
I was going to say Booty Juice.
It's close. It's close.
Yes, said the requirement is designed to reduce pedestrian deaths, which have been on the rise in the post-COVID-19 era. It's like, I didn't know we had this wave of pedestrian deaths. Maybe that's why people are
we
still.
all hibernated for 3 years and forgot how to drive and walk.
I still see people out for a walk that still have their COVID masks on.
Yeah.
So, I thought maybe that was to prevent getting hit by a car. But anyways, let's see. The new standards require all cars to avoid contact at up to 62 miles per hour, because you wouldn't want to hit a pedestrian at 62. Think about how much damage that would cause to your car. And mandate that they must be able to detect pedestrians in the dark. They will also require braking at up to 45 miles per hour when a pedestrian is detected. I don't know what this is going to do to your car. If there's somebody just slightly off standing on the curb, are we going to,
I have a car with new modern safety features, and it has those automatic collision detection braking, and backing out of a parking space, it is abrupt. You hit it hard, going 2 miles an hour. So yeah, I can't imagine 45 miles an hour. Your car decided it saw a pedestrian, and you're going to hit the brakes.
Let's see. They estimate it could save 360 lives and prevent 24,000 injuries. What about the injuries to the people driving the car?
I'm for these things. I mean, if we have the technology and it's something that's available and you can just start adding it to base packages, I think those are good things. I think in light of some of the discussions we've had around foreign vehicles, EVs, and the dirt cheap ones, I mean, that's
right.
A direct contradiction to that. It's the more features, the more bells and whistles, whatever you want to call it to it. I mean, it's no longer bare bones. So I think that's going to introduce some challenges to those price points. But I'm not super opposed to these type of safety regulations. Now,
I'm not either. I'm not either. I just kind of laugh.
Is this actually a significant announcement, or are all the automakers going like, well, we're doing this anyway? Thanks for telling us the thing we're already doing, because it's what our consumers expect us to do. The market drove us to this, not your regulations.
No, it is interesting to see. Technologies like automatic emergency braking have proven game-changing, and that automakers have voluntarily committed to install them on new vehicles. There you go, Mike. Just what you said.
Hey, we'll do it. You have to do it. Oh, we just said we're going to do it. Great.
Wow. So, according to the Governor's Highway Safety Association, drivers killed more than 7,500 pedestrians in 22. Holy cow, I had no idea. The most since 1981, with total deaths having doubled over the past decade. Wow. So are people walking more? Are people driving more? What's going on here?
What are the other what
is causing this?
Why did that just happen?
The pedestrian fatality rate at 2.2 per billion vehicle miles traveled is also higher than pre-pandemic, although it began to decline in the first half of 23. Oh, here we go. Research has shown that since the coronavirus pandemic, this is probably from getting vaccinated, I suppose, speeding and other risky driving behaviors have increased, while public transit ridership has declined, causing an increase in road deaths. Oh my God!
I can buy it. I mean, those both seem corollary. I don't know if they're causal, but they're corollary.
Right. Here's another theory. In addition, the pandemic delayed sales of newer vehicles, which tend to be safer and feature the latest accident prevention technologies. That one, well, the thing is, if we didn't have those technologies 50 years ago and pedestrians weren't dying, I know that in the United States, the top 3 markets for getting hit as a pedestrian are Las Vegas, Miami, and Orlando. Okay, and in those cities, you do see people walking around. We were talking about this before the show. We live in Nebraska, and it's like you barely see people walking anywhere near a street. We have walking paths all over the place, and they're really not somewhere a car should end up. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it's unlikely. Now I do have snow plows come through on the one behind my house,
Yeah.
but there's never anybody walking when the snow plows are coming through. Yeah, but
I don't know, man. This is just one of those that what they're tying it back to COVID is that it took the bump that everybody else took. It's just delayed by a year or two, and this was a blip on the radar that's going to flatten out in 2 years anyway. I mean, I don't know.
now Buttigieg estimated that the requirement will add $82 to the cost of the new vehicle. Okay, well, if it's not costing tens of thousands of dollars, just sitting there, it's like, is this an excuse? Sometimes I wonder, it's like, okay, whose nephew owns the company that's making this stuff?
That makes the sensor that you need for that.
Makes the sensor you need, yes. So that was kind of interesting. All right, Mike, let's talk about extreme fast charging for eVTOLs. Okay, so one of the things that's becoming popular, or starting to become a thing, I don't know about popular, is electric vertical takeoff and landing taxis. And so these run off of batteries. They're just like an electric car, and batteries work fine for propeller-driven aircraft. And so this is a spinoff of helicopters, essentially. But what's happened is there's a collaboration in China to produce batteries with 200 watt hours per kilogram that can charge from 30% to 80% in 5 to 10 minutes and last over 2,000 cycles of charging. That's pretty impressive. Now, we know that technology exists for cars already, because we've previously discussed fast charging in New York, but the cars can't handle it yet. So hopefully the eVTOLs will be able to handle it right away. Let's see here. Oh, this collaboration between Guangzhou Greater Bay Technology, which specializes in ultra-fast charging and extreme fast charging battery solutions.
It's neat, right? And I look at these and I say, this is cool. It's amazing. It's a flying car, effectively, that we've been talking about since the 1950s. Some of these specific applications I look at and say, what's the problem you're solving? And I get it, congestion, getting cars off the road and everything, but it's building a completely new market out of it and changing things on its head. I don't know if that's applicable.
This is more of a luxury market.
Yeah, I mean, it's a toy. This is a toy that might save you a few minutes.
Well, I guess it depends on your market. They talk about getting from, say, LaGuardia to Manhattan, or to some destination and landing on a rooftop or something like that. And shaving off an hour of travel, just because of the nature of New York City. So I see where there's some places where, it would save a lot of time. It wouldn't do anything for us here where we live.
No.
But
the other thing I look at, I know this is just, they're testing it out. They're ready to make an announcement, but from a practical application from transportation, you look at a space like this, and 2,000 cycles on a battery sounds like a lot on paper, but if you're using that thing every day, that doesn't get you very far.
Well, what if you're using it 3 times a day?
That's what I mean. Like, if you're
that's maybe 2 years.
And the expected value that you're bringing to this fast charging is, I have to charge this multiple times a day. I need to refill it quickly. So if you charged it 3 times a day, you get 2 years of service out of this thing before your batteries would be dead.
So when you're in an aircraft, you've not just got the fuel cost, you have a lot of cost of maintenance to keep that aircraft in the air, that for every hour it flies. And with a battery powered vehicle, most of that is the battery.
Is the battery, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's probably going to be very similar to what
Maybe that does
they see in
balance out.
aviation. Yeah, so it's probably just a different concept. I guess it just depends on how much somebody's going to use that thing, right? That's kind of like the problem that came up with Hertz for, although I'm not really sure how much all the fast charging really hurt those Hertz rental cars. The big thing that Hertz lost out on was the fact that after they bought them all, Tesla really dropped the price of the Model 3. And then it really dropped the price of the used Model 3s.
Yeah.
And so Hertz got stuck with all this depreciation. So it hurt them. It ended up being a really bad deal for Hertz, and but it wasn't necessarily the fault of the electric cars. It was the fact that Tesla's figured out how to sell their cars cheaper. And as market conditions change, if their sales aren't where they are, they just lower the price because they still have profit margin, and they can keep doing it. Let's see. But anyways, I a lot of times we see some of these articles about batteries and charging and things going on, and a lot of them, I don't know if they're just hopeful or they're saying, hey, we could do this, kind of thing, just throwing out an announcement. Maybe they're trying to raise money. Are they really manufacturing? Like I was telling Bill, we were looking at something yesterday. So Xiaomi, the Chinese cell phone manufacturer, they released their first SUV, the SU7, and they've already produced over 10,000 of them in the first month. Although I think a lot of those were already produced. And I look at all these other companies trying to bring stuff to market, and Rivian didn't even produce that many vehicles all last year. And here's this Chinese automaker upstart cranking them out, but they have cash from the cell phone business. And so if the EV business fails, they're okay. It's just something they're trying to see if it works out for them. And, I think they're going to be competitive. All right, real quick. Toyota has, once again, Toyota's in the news about hydrogen again. And Toyota establishes a hydrogen headquarters to accelerate advancement of fuel cell technology. They're doing this in California. It's renaming the Toyota Motor North America California office as its new North American hydrogen headquarters. Well, it's good. So they significantly renamed it. They took a new photo outside the building, and everybody's going to change their business cards, and they're going to go about business as usual. I saw this press release, and I'm just like, oh God, is this another non-starter? Because we keep talking about hydrogen, and somebody's got to provide service, and now they are going to have their own hydrogen factory, but people have to produce the hydrogen.
You have to produce it, you have to distribute it, you have to create an interface to it's, oh boy. I guess Toyota, if you got the cash to spare, go ahead. And you want to put it in there, and this is a good thing, and you're taking a risk that if at some point this market does take off, you have your foot in the door and you got in there first, and that's an acceptable investment risk. Great. Everybody's moving in this direction, and you decided to move in this direction. I don't know. We'll see.
I think there's a home for hydrogen maybe in large trucks, even though hydrogen has less energy for, compared to say like diesel and other things. I think if everything's got to be clean energy, there's some home for it there. I just don't see hydrogen taking over on passenger cars just because it doesn't have the same fun experience.
It's passenger cars. This is my soapbox, where it's Americana, right? It's freedom. I can go, I can travel, I can go wherever I want to. We could hop in a car in Omaha and be in California by tomorrow, close to tomorrow, and just drive, and go out and do that. So that idea really makes this difficult for the passenger cars. But if you approach trucking and shipping as the bigger problem, I need to get from this point and I need to move stuff to this point, and I don't care how I do it. I want to get it as cheap, and it's going to be the same thing every single day. Sure, hydrogen might make sense, but hydrogen depot on this side, hydrogen depot on this side, and you've solved this one very, very specific problem. So from that standpoint, I can buy it, I can see it. You're solving a different problem, but yeah, trying to build out a brand new network just seems difficult. Just seems really difficult.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I'm just, I don't know what to expect. It's just like the whole idea of, so Tesla's making electric trucks and they're using them. They work really well for sort of. They have a max range of about 500 miles, whereas normal diesel can go about 1,300 if it needed to. But that being said, you could still use them for over the road. The problem is a lot of these truck stops are kind of in remote locations, remote exits, all that, and to fill up those enormous batteries, we're talking 500 plus kilowatt hour batteries. Okay. And you gotta have, they're talking about, charging them from both sides and all this. You're gonna be pulling a lot of juice out there in the middle of nowhere. And that's a lot to have the grid prepared for, for those situations. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying
it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to pull that off. And you can band-aid it and you can nickel and dime it and say, okay, we're going to put up solar, we're going to put up wind, we're going to do everything under the sun to try to make this as efficient as possible. You still need a big old honking wire coming from somewhere that's not there today.
Right. No, I get it. I'm just saying it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
It would definitely take a long time. All right, move on to our next story. This is about Hyundai in India. And Hyundai says they're going to make a big shift into producing more hybrids in India, which so India only has about 4% EVs for new sales. And Hyundai is overall I think the number 2 car seller in India. I don't know who's number 1.
I never would have guessed that.
Yeah. Oh, no, they're the second largest car maker in India. So I assume that Tata is probably number 1. But that's an assumption. I don't know that. If anybody does know, please let us know. But anyways, Hyundai and Kia are targeting the launch of hybrid SUVs in 26 and 27. Adding that their EV plans for India were also on track. Yeah, I guess, but there's somebody who has decided to manufacture there. And now, I was going to say, India is trying hard to attract EV manufacturers to the country. So they have a lot of things going on. In fact, Bill and I were talking about yesterday that maybe there is something going on as to why Musk went to China a couple days ago. Like this is something to put pressure on India. Who knows? Because Musk has been talking about investing $2 to $3 billion into building a new location in India, but he wants some concessions from India in order for them to do it. Building EVs in India would have obvious long-run strategic value for Hyundai and Kia, but the underdeveloped EV manufacturing charging infrastructure remains a challenge. Oh, there you go.
Sure, I believe you. I bet that is a challenge.
Until EV sales pick up pace, Hyundai wants to get dibs on India's hybrid market. Well, I used to doubt Hyundai and Kia, but like I said, in the last few years, they started making nice-looking vehicles and, stuff that people actually want to own. And the other thing is Hyundai's always had that 100,000-mile warranty. That's hard to you got to really look at that. That seems like a really good, solid marketing strategy if their product is good enough to back it up.
Great market strategy. And pointing out and finding this sweet spot. And even if that hybrid sweet spot only exists for the next 5 or 10 years, you're still there. Your foot's still in the door. You have your capital and infrastructure in place to move into whatever's next for this giant emerging market.
All right, so let's talk about the UN wants to create a panel to oversee critical minerals mining. I don't know what this really means. It's and sometimes we get these news stories that it's really hard to actually figure out what they're really talking about. But this intergovernmental group will try to stem abuses tied to critical mineral mining.
Okay.
So let's see here. The newly established panel includes reps from close to 100 countries, as well as nonprofits and industry groups. It's tasked with developing a set of global common and voluntary principles to safeguard environmental and social standards and embed justice in the energy transition. Oh God, more buzzwords. Okay. Powering an economy.
That was pretty buzzwordy.
It was. You know, somebody was like, I wanted something. They said, oh, why don't you just use Chat GPT? And it's like, because I don't like the way it generates all these buzzwords and stuff to the point where it doesn't sound like normal English speech.
I mean, the one that catches my heart is voluntary principles. And I like it. I like looking at these, and I don't think anybody would ever hopefully interpret that you and I are against humanitarian aid and humanitarian need and exploiting people to mine these. No, that's not the case at all. Everybody wants to see that improve, but it's on the same hand, you just created a task force from 100 countries that has no teeth. That can't actually do any of these things or put that out there. It's just write a paper on it.
I hate the efforts by people to, quote, do good, but it really hurts the people they think they're helping. Like, I'll give you an example right now, and we're talking about minerals. So one of the countries that has a lot of natural resources is the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Okay, they're considered to be a bad actor in international trade, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that some unscrupulous people there use some child labor, not necessarily. They might use some slave labor. They use some child labor. It could be both. Okay. On the flip side, what you don't know is that 12-year-old may not have parents and may need some way to survive. That 12-year-old may be the one who's bringing home money to support his mom and siblings. There's all these things, and then the next thing you know, it's like, okay, now he's at home, he's safe. And it's like, well, the family then starves to death.
Yeah, there's no more.
So I'm not saying that I want that. Okay, I'm not saying that there's possibilities. I get this all the time. It's like, well, what if? How are you going to tow that trailer or that boat to the lake with that EV? It's like, well, how often are you doing that? How many, people on my channel actually own something they're going to go tow? Oh, I just disappeared.
There you go.
Oh, sorry, I'm back. Yeah, but I'm just saying, it's like, I'm not saying that we know that towing is the one real weak spot for EVs. It's not that they can't do it. They actually have more torque, can tow a whole lot more. It's just that the battery drains pretty fast when they do it. Okay, but I'm just saying, there's things that a lot of times laws get passed and they have unintended consequences. You look at like NAFTA. NAFTA was originally drafted to help tech companies be able to sell their software and conduct free trade all throughout North America. But in reality, what it did was it ended America's dominance in manufacturing that it's had since World War II. Okay, Ross Perot campaigned, his whole platform was, this was in the 90s, we're not going to have NAFTA. But it was a matchup between Bush Sr., Bill Clinton, and Perot. And Perot was a serious candidate until he had that admiral as a vice president, had that goofy speech and kind of ruined everything. But Clinton won. But if Bush had won, he still would have passed it, and it passed with Clinton. And so you can't just go blaming it on Clinton. It was bipartisan and everything, but it really was bad. And, a recent president did everything he could to repeal every part of NAFTA they could and was able to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. I'm not going to say who it was. He just doesn't trip and fall down on airplanes, okay, or on bicycles. But
The UN getting involved once again. I mean, this is one of those like, yes, everybody should read this and go, that's a great thing. We want to see this. We don't want to see these countries exploited. We want to see if they're sitting on a figurative or literal gold mine, in a place like that, let that country enjoy their resources and profit from that effectively and equitably and fairly, across in the international market. So look, yeah, do this. We want to see this work. We want to see those things open up. We want to see more flow of minerals that are critical to some of these productions. But on the same hand, it's just committees. It's committee after committee after committee, and the person holding lease to that mine or whatever is, I don't know, I'm not going to do it. I make a crap ton of money and can do whatever I want. Why would I listen to you?
Well, and if you see this here, it's actually I highlighted. They actually went to talking about the Congo. Okay, and so because that was always my thought when I hear this stuff. One Tesla battery material supplier had 70 allegations of abuses since 2010. And I believe Tesla stopped using these folks. That included poor working conditions at a cobalt mine in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where workers told The Verge they had to work long hours in oppressive heat with little water, food, or pay. But they were able to be interviewed by The Verge. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that this is a good situation for them, but it doesn't sound like they were slave labor or child labor. If you know what I mean. I'm just saying.
I don't know enough about this, and this
it's like, okay, so if they got rid of the mine, what do those people go do? It's a tough situation, and I get where they're coming from, but I'm not saying that the people don't deserve rights and they want to prevent abuses, but it's my issue comes back with, then if you told them they had to close down the mine, then what do those people do?
Right? You lose the value for your nation by taking that out of there. So it's like you said, it's a tough subject. It's one nobody wants to see abuse, nobody wants to see exploitation, but on the same hand, I mean, that is your commodity. So regulating that and paying attention to it and looking at it, that's a great thing.
So I've got one other article I wanted to cover, and this is actually about 3 weeks old. So this is really covering the first quarter of this year. So EVs sell. This is dealer information. So this is in the United States. EVs sell the slowest, sitting on dealer lots 21 days longer than hybrids. New car sales slow down 26%, while used cars are selling 31% faster. Now, this was from April 9th. And while it's showing pictures of Teslas, I'm going to show some interesting data. So the fastest and slowest.
Teslas also aren't sitting on dealer lots. I mean, maybe used, but.
These are used.
Okay.
Yeah. And these may be pictures of one sitting ready to be delivered to customers, because Tesla generally does not have any inventory available to deliver. You usually have to wait a week or two to get your car. Okay, they're making them, but they generally have everything that's made sold. So when we come down here to the fastest and slowest selling cars, you see this asterisk right here? Excludes Tesla.
So the number one electric vehicle manufacturer.
So the number one, so the number one that makes more than 50% of all the electric vehicles sold in the United States, they're excluding from this. So I'm just saying, it's like, what is your point? If you're going to, you can't say they're not selling and then say, well, other than Tesla. And it's like, what does that even mean? But, so if we exclude Tesla, the fastest, average days on market, the cars sit on the lot, Toyota has a lease at just under 40 days. And it was interesting. Alfa Romeo was next. And I don't really think about them much. We do have a dealer here in Omaha.
No, we do.
Yeah. And I know people who drive them, but it just doesn't seem that fascinating.
A lot more than you used to.
Yeah. And Cadillac was really strong. And you know what's really interesting? Cadillac, is it the Lyric, I think it's called?
Your mid-size
SUV. their orders to production they're at 400%. They are so backed up on selling it. It's such a hot seller for Cadillac, but those aren't going to dealer lots. They're being shipped directly to customers, apparently. But that's part of why Cadillac is up here. Honda, not a surprise. Jaguar, surprising.
Cadillac was dead in the water 20 years ago. But with the Escalade, man, that turned them around. And the Lyric's a nice looking vehicle too. Anyway, go on.
But so it says the fastest selling car brands average days on market. What I'm assuming here is if 1,000 Cadillacs were delivered to dealers, it took 43 days to sell those 1,000 Cadillacs.
Mm-hmm.
It took 1,000 days to sell these Jaguars. But Toyota probably sold, 100 times more than Alfa Romeo.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like some of this, you have to take this with a grain of salt, because a lot of times when you see statistics, you don't know where it's going. Now over here, it says if this is faster or slower than average. So this is for new cars. These brands are selling faster.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get down below, and it's Maserati, Mini, Mercedes, Volkswagen, Nissan, Mitsubishi, Jeep. We talked about Jeep selling slow lately. We get down here, Lincoln is really selling slow. Infiniti, Buick, Audi, Ram. Ford was really down here. It's really hard to go excluding Tesla when you see somebody like Ford, Dodge, and GM, all down here. Why are you pointing fingers at EVs? Now, fastest and slowest selling used car brands. Fastest, Honda, Lexus, Toyota. Tesla's number 4. Interesting. Now, these are still all selling faster or slower than average as used cars. Okay. Anyways, we come down here a little bit. Rivian. The thing is, how many used Rivians are there in lots? I mean, they're only producing something like 9,000 cars last year, and
how many years have they been on the market?
They only like 2 or 3.
Yeah, I mean, so to have a used Rivian out there, that's a
right. Yeah, that it really is. Audi, Jeep, Jaguar. But I'm just looking at, like here's one, used Polestars. And there's somebody in Omaha that has a Polestar.
Really?
Yeah. But anyways, I'm just saying these are pretty random, for used cars. At the bottom of the used car list is Maserati. If you ever want a really good deal on a used car to just have sit around and drive it on a Sunday, get a convertible Maserati, because they're super cheap.
Yeah, apparently they are sitting on the shelves gathering.
They depreciate so bad. It's just crazy. But anyways, here, let's go to types of fuel to sell on the cars. Once again, here's that big asterisk. We're going to exclude Tesla from the.
How can you do that?
I mean, it's so disingenuous to even say this.
To me, that's not an asterisk. That's the title of your table. Here's this without Tesla.
Yeah. Here's the stats without Tesla, and people then want to quote talking about how bad, EVs. So
EVs are doing. Yeah.
So on average, EVs are sitting on dealer lots for 70 days, versus 49 for hybrids. Hybrids are the best. Hybrids have the least days on average. But overall, 54% for all cars. And, Tesla's would probably be like 10 days. And so if you factored that in, all of a sudden we get down to probably an average of about 30 days here. And it just completely wipes out this whole argument. And it's really kind of sad. So I really, any debate where you have a discussion doesn't include Tesla is just dumb. So anyways, folks, I'm sorry I rant on some of this sometimes, but it's just tough to see some of this. Used car days to sell over the past 6 months. So here we go. Hybrids, 30 days. EVs, 36 days. Average of all cars, 34. Now, this would include
This does
Tesla.
include Tesla, I'm guessing.
Yes, but I one of the things I don't see where regular dealerships really know what they're doing with EVs, and the guys that have the EV only dealerships are
Mhm.
killing it. They're absolutely, killing it. But I think a lot of it is they're going out to the auto auctions and they're specifically looking for the top grade EVs out there that they can sell on their lot and ideally get people the $4,000 tax credit.
Yeah.
And that's a huge deal right now to price it at
It's people that navigate
$25,000.
those waters and just basic expertise on it. You know what I mean? Like, all right, I got a trade in electric vehicle. I guess I need to sell this now. What I should probably learn what it does.
Now, here's some interesting numbers. So these are the 20 fastest selling new cars by model and their average price. Okay. Number one is the Highlander hybrid. That's pretty cool, right?
Mhm.
$55,000. But look at number two, a G class. So you're going to drive a G wagon, and the average price is $206,000. Now, the thing is, how many of these are actually arriving
Oh,
on the Mercedes lot to sell? It's not like, there was a million of these sold at 900,000 of these. No, there was probably 5,000 of these sold or
and
10,000 of these sold.
if I'm going to spend $200,000 on a car, I'm going to custom order it. Right? I'm not going to
Right.
show up at the dealer ready to write a down payment check. I'm really,
Yeah.
I want it to be exactly what I want.
Yeah, that's not the color I want. It has the features, but not the color.
Yeah.
Um, Land Rover, Range Rover. What's third? Once again, probably not a lot of these selling at
Mhm.
$159,000. So some of this, you have to take this a little tongue in cheek and just, so like Escalades didn't have a long time. But let's see, so here's a hybrid. Here's a hybrid Toyota Sienna. That's a
Mhm.
minivan. That's kind of cool. And you wouldn't expect that to be that common either. Let's see, Toyota Highlander hybrid. Oh, this is a different model of the Highlander. So one was the Grand Highlander, and this is just the Highlander. Toyota Corolla Cross hybrid. Toyota Corolla hybrid. Prius Prime is a hybrid. Let's see, Cadillac ESV or Escalade ESV X. I think that's extra.
I have no idea.
I think it's the one that's the Suburban. The Escalade Suburban, because there's a
Yeah.
shorter Escalade that's the same size as the Tahoe.
Mhm.
And an X250, Toyota Corolla Cross. Um, the average price was $44,000, but that was probably just averaging. I don't know if that was averaging these cars or based on the total number sold, because it just seems hard to fathom the average was that low when you have 200,000,
I think
158,000,
it's
110,000.
got to be a weighted average, right? Like you're saying, like it's not trying to hide just a straight average. It's how many of these vehicles are actually being sold? You're selling a heck of a lot more of the $25,000 ones than the $200,000 ones.
12 of the 20 fastest selling new cars are Toyotas, 8 of which are hybrids.
Boy, the Toyota execs have got to be giving each other high fives after this.
Yes.
Boy, we're crushing it.
Okay. 10 fastest selling new electric vehicles excludes Tesla. The Volvo XC40. I wouldn't have guessed that was number one, but it's number one in average days they sit on the
Uh,
Volvo lot.
I've I'm starting to see more and more buzz about that, and
Yeah.
more people looking at Volvo as a luxury brand and their entry point into EVs.
Oh, well, that $35,000 EX30 that's coming is going to just crush it.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, the Cadillac Lyric, says 40 days, but Cadillac has talked about how they're so far behind on production of this to match demand that this doesn't really make any sense. I mean, why are some sitting there if the demand is so high? The Kona Electric, it says average price 37. We were talking the other day, it's being released in the US. They're dropping the price for the 24 down to 26 grand
Ooh.
for the base model. So that's going to be super competitive. Yeah. The Busy Forks, 48,000. I wouldn't even guess this would be number 8. the BMW i5, Hyundai Ioniq 5. I bet if you added Teslas in here, you'd have Model Y number one, Model 3 number two. The X would
Mhm.
probably be in this top three here, and the S would be in here as well. So you'd kick out at least the bottom four off the list of the top 10.
I bet they'd take all the top spots.
Well, there's only four. There's only four models.
That's what I mean. I think they would take the top 4 spots.
Yeah. Well,
Otherwise, I mean, the Kias we've talked about a fair amount, the Hyundais we've talked about, but otherwise they're kind of like Volvo electric. Like, huh? Okay.
yeah, it's shocking to see some of this. The 20 slowest selling new cars. Here's where it gets sad. This is where I'm saying Stellantis needs to do something about Jeep.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Jeep Cherokee, that surprised. Of course, that
iconic vehicle. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean 170 days on market.
And
Next
look at
is
the difference between number 1 and number 2. I mean, that is
40 days.
Jeep Cherokees are not selling.
So the Mercedes-Benz EQS sedan is the second longest sitting on a lot. The other thing is it shows 125. Used 1 year later, you can pick these up for 65.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is also the fastest appreciating car
Appreciating one.
Currently. And an Acadia.
See, I thought the Acadias did pretty well. So I wonder if some of these there's a big update coming in the next year or two, and people are holding out. It's like, I want to get this, but it's getting overhauled in the next year. I'm going to wait for the new model to come out. I don't know.
I really wonder about this one, the Santa Fe plug-in hybrid. You would think this one would be crushing it right now.
Yeah.
And it's not. Navigator, some of these are really expensive. Infinity's just, they're looking old and, lack of styling. You'd think this one would be real popular, but it's not. I see people buy older ones of these, all the time. Let's see. The Mercedes.
See, I know the
EQS.
Lexus ones. Maybe it was this year. Maybe it was 23 or going into 24. Like there's a big model update coming through on those.
Is there?
Yeah.
But you look at some of these. This is an odd one. The Chevy Bolt EUV. That would have to be a 23 because there was no 24 model.
Mm-hmm.
But here you start getting to some of these. The F-150. Well, that's not good. Oh, that's the hybrid. I didn't even know there was a hybrid F-150. And where are you finding the $65,000 price at? I mean, that's another pipe dream. What was this one? This was the 20 slowest selling new cars, 10 slowest selling EVs. And, once again, it's like, of course, it doesn't include Tesla because they wouldn't be slow selling, but yeah, days on market for used cars. Oh God, this one, the Lexus RX 358 gets picked up pretty fast. Look at how quick those get picked up. And then
Lexus every year is the most reliable car brand. And so, their resale value, I think, is being reflected here. And I'm getting a luxury vehicle at a very good price that's going to last me another 10 years.
Well, one of the reasons, and this is interesting. So this Kia Niro plug-in hybrid, average price $24,276. This is eligible for the $4,000 tax credit at point of sale. So you can use that $4,000 as your down payment too. Yeah. So, it's a huge deal. So you'd think there'd be more plug-in hybrids. There just aren't very many that exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad. The Prius Prime is one, and there probably aren't any used ones out there. But if you look out here, we have a bunch of hybrids, but hybrid alone doesn't qualify for the credit. It has to be a plug-in. And let's see, there's no other plug-in on here. Let's see. Hold on. 20 fastest selling used cars, 10 fastest selling used electric cars. Oh God, Model 3, Model Y, the e-tron. This is kind of funny. It's like we were looking at, they all sell so slow. but these really aren't sitting. But also, the Chevy Bolt is just under 25,000. The Mini's under 25,000, so they're eligible for that $4,000 tax credit. It's 70. You have to earn 75,000 or less single, or 150,000 or less married to qualify for that. Then the slowest selling. Hold on, we get so many different ones here. Slowest selling used cars. It's interesting. There's the Pacifica plug-in hybrid. You would think this would sell. The average price is 44,000. It's not eligible for the rebate. That's still pretty for a used minivan. The average price is $44,000. That is nuts.
I mean, unless people are just unloading those as soon as they get them, I'm like, nope, this was not the right car for me.
Yeah, I think the Ghibli is the one that has the Ferrari engine. $43,000. But if you had a Ferrari engine, you're gonna get stuck with paying Ferrari prices to fix it.
It's true.
And so that's the big scare. The Escape plug-in hybrid, just a little bit too much. So to qualify for the rebate, but it's damn close. There's probably some hit the rebate. It's just kind of interesting to see this. I don't know what this is. The C40 Recharge. It sounds like it would be electric.
Sounds electric to me.
Or the Levant. I don't know. But anyways, that was enough of that. We've gone a long time on the show today. I think that's good. Folks, thanks for watching today. And I hope you found this informative. Please leave us a comment if you'd like to see us cover some other news articles or have anything you'd like us to cover later on. Anyways, folks, have a great day. And we'll be back with Mike